Hi guys, thanks for joining us. In our chapel we have a saint tree. It's a tree filled with images and descriptions about the lives of all of the saints who have featured in our Saint of the Week videos. The saints on that tree are incredible people. They lived remarkable lives and did incredible things and drew people closer to God by their example. And I love saints. It's one of my favourite things to explore and learn about. And without doubt, one of my favourite saints is this guy. Saint Joseph was Jesus' earthly father, the man who Jesus on earth would have called Dad. Now, we've already done a video explaining his life, so this time I'm going to tell you 5 things that we can learn from Saint Joseph that should help us in our life. So here's 5 things that Saint Joseph can teach us. Number 1, the first thing that we can learn from Saint Joseph comes from how little he spoke. And when I say how little Joseph spoke, throughout all of the Gospels and all of the stories about Jesus' life, Joseph never spoke. There are no words attributed to Joseph in the Gospels. Instead, what we see are examples of Joseph listening. Joseph was visited by angels that spoke to him and instructed him. Joseph is a profound example of how important it is to listen, to take time out of our busy days, to stop what we're doing and to stop talking and instead to listen, to enjoy the silence and to listen for what God is calling us to do with our lives. So the first thing that St. Joseph teaches us is how important it is to listen rather than speak. Number 2, the second thing that Joseph teaches us is that when we listen, we should also respond. We're not called just to listen, to sit, to take in information and to do nothing with it. We're called to listen and then respond to that call. God is calling every single one of you to something incredible, a great journey, a life full of promise, happiness and joy. All we have to do is listen to the call from God and respond to it. We're not called just to listen to God's voice and go, okay, that's nice. We're called to respond to God's call, to hear what God is calling us to, and then to do something about it. And Joseph does this. The angels tell Joseph to make Mary his wife, even though she's pregnant with Jesus, and he does it. They then tell Joseph to take his family and flee into Egypt to keep them safe, and he does it. And then the angels tell him to bring the family back to Nazareth. So he does. Joseph listens and then he responds. And that's the second thing that we can learn from Saint Joseph. The third thing is we need to learn to trust. Listening and responding sounds very easy, but it requires trust. It requires us to trust that God knows what is right for us and that God is leading us the right way, even when it's really difficult. Joseph was called to do something really challenging, to take a pregnant woman and make her his wife in a culture that would have shunned that would have mocked them, that would have pointed at them and laughed. But Joseph knew that this call had come from God, and so he trusted in God and responded to it. And then Joseph was called to take his family and flee to Egypt to escape Herod. Joseph didn't know what that journey would bring. He didn't know whether they would be safe in Egypt. How would they survive? But he trusted God and went and did what God called him to do. And so the third thing that we can learn from St. Joseph is that when we listen and respond, we need to trust and place our trust in God. The fourth thing is to pray. Like I said, we don't hear Joseph speak at all, but he is in tune with God. He has this relationship that means God sends his angels to talk to him. So Joseph must have been a man who prayed regularly and who had a strong relationship with God. We know that Joseph took his family to the temple, that he offered Jesus to God in the temple in accordance with the rules of the time. St. Joseph clearly is someone who had a strong faith. And so we need to try to do the same, to have a relationship with God, one based on prayer and following the call that God places in our lives. So the fourth thing we can learn from St. Joseph is to pray, and to pray that our relationship with God will be strong. The fifth thing that we can learn from St. Joseph is all about love. I think one of the things that comes most strongly from the story of St. Joseph, what little we know about him, is love. He loved Mary even though it was difficult, even though he knew the challenges that would be in front of him. He loved Jesus so much so that he was willing to flee to protect this unborn child. He loved God so much that the angel spoke to him and guided his life. Joseph is a profound example of what love means. Not in a way that requires lots of speaking, not in a way that requires buying loads of things or being really flamboyant, but love in its purest sense, a love that gives itself for other people. So Joseph teaches us the fifth thing, to love others, to love God, and to love in a way that means so much to so many people. So those are 5 things that we can learn from St. Joseph, and I hope, like me, you'll find his story inspirational, and you'll find something in his story to inspire you to change your life for the better. We ask St. Joseph to pray for us, and I pray that you have a great week. Goodbye.